So now I'm going to show you a video, and here you can see the slide, and it's talking about the Kaikoura earthquake, and you're probably thinking, what the heck? I thought we were talking about COVID-19. So the point of showing you this video is that there are so many different distressing events, and unfortunately we, New Zealand Red Cross, and we globally, we New Zealanders, have been here before. We've lived through many natural disasters and huge events, earthquakes, floods, fires, terrorist attacks, and it doesn't matter the context of the event. All of these sorts of things can cause people distress. So the messages that we're trying to give, irrespective of the context, are very similar and very, very important. Have a watch.
People can come along here between 8:30 to 5 and we'll go through a needs assessment and looking at their needs, any practical assistance, but particularly providing that psychosocial support. Psychosocial support is meeting the emotional needs of people. It's not just about practical issues. People have gone through a major event here. We're getting people who are emotionally distressed, upset, agitated, not sleeping well, distressed, angry, frustrated. But those are perfectly normal reactions in an abnormal situation. Perfectly normal reactions. There's nothing wrong with coming and asking for help.
And
whether that's yes, and people are. We're getting people coming in and asking for help. We're able to provide them food bags and that emotional support.
The help's been amazing. Red Cross have just come in and helped me to tidy up my shop. This is the first time I've been in here because I couldn't face it. And I just talked to one of the Red Cross on the street. Next thing, she sent people down and said, right, there's ladies are here to help you. And we've just cleared the floor space. And it's just like, picked everything up. And that was amazing. All the help's been wonderful. Everyone has been amazing.
And really just want to encourage everyone, it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel a little bit of fear. It's okay to feel anxious. I know you'll be worried about sometimes not sleeping or having some situations that don't feel normal at the moment, but it is normal, so don't worry about the anxiety and the fear.
I mean, the first thing I said today is, just on behalf of the rest of the country, just well done on being so resilient and courageous, and so yeah, first thing is to pat yourselves on the back. You are strong, you are resilient, and you're showing that every day, and just look after yourselves, keep trying to find a joy in the little things.
So as I mentioned before, the key messages that you heard in the video can and are the same key messages that we are saying to people right now during COVID-19. It's okay. People are stressed, are worried, concerned, and that's a natural reaction to this really, really abnormal event. And so this is really important from a PFA perspective, that we continue to remind people that it is okay to be feeling what they are feeling, to feel that little bit of fear. Some of us have a lot of fear throughout this COVID-19 situation. Some of us aren't sleeping, are worried and anxious, and it's reminding people that this is a normal reaction and it is okay. So I want to talk a little bit more about the causes of distress, because remember, PFA is all about reducing a person's distress. You can see here, there are many different causes of distress. I want to focus particularly on a couple of them. Loss of a many different of things can cause people distress. Right now, we can all relate to that loss of control. We're just not allowed to go to certain places. We've lost our freedom. We've lost our sort of ability to make day-to-day choices and where we go, who we go with, and what we're doing. And that can absolutely cause distress. This disruption to our lives, this change, working from home. This is what I'm doing right now, or not working. The things that have been happening, this like collateral damage to this COVID-19, there's stuff that we didn't even anticipate was going to happen. And I'm sure there's going to be more things that we are coming out in the next sort of weeks and months that we didn't anticipate will happen. We've got schools closed, we've got kids at home, whatever the age group, who are stuck at home, and we also could be having kids at home and trying to work. Every single one of those things can cause distress. And so a lot of us are dealing with several of those at the same time. And also upturned assumptions, what we thought were going to happen, where we thought we were going to be at this time of the year. We never anticipated that the ground was going to shake beneath our feet as it did. We didn't anticipate floodwaters coming through into our home, and we certainly didn't think a virus could ever affect us in the way that it has. So I want us to be really mindful of the fact that causes of distress, we may not be aware or familiar with the causes of distress. So please don't assume that when you're talking with someone, a family member, a colleague, and they're distressed, and you think, it's just because of COVID-19. It might not just be COVID-19, and that's enough in itself anyway. But there are many other factors that can impact how a person reacts to an event. Let's have a look at some of those. So if we look at this here, you've got the crisis event. Well, right now, yes, we're talking about COVID-19, but that could be a relationship breakup. It could be a job loss. It could be an earthquake. It could be whatever it is for that person. And then you think about the factors around the local community which will impact how you react to the situation, how connected you are to community, how supportive it is, the demographics of the community. Is it predominantly an elderly community, or is it a lot of families with young children? And even now we're starting to look at the support groups, the services that were available and open in the community. They're not there anymore. And so that will definitely impact how someone is reacting to this event. If suddenly all these services and groups that maybe they were part of is now not happening. If we think about the local environment, access to Wi-Fi, I can't even begin to imagine what would happen to us all. We're relying even more so on internet access, Wi-Fi for work, for connecting, to see family members, for a myriad of things. And if you think about access to health services right now, when this is a global health issue. So I live in Wellington. I have a medical centre down the road. I've got access to a hospital a couple of kilometres away. Yet if I lived very remotely, rurally, and so I had to travel, or there wasn't a local health service or medical centre, I had to travel for hours to get to a hospital, that is really going to impact how I react, and I'm thinking and worried about this whole event. And then we've got these personal factors. Now, we may have no idea what's going on, and a lot of time we don't know really what's going on with people. But think about people's age. Who's dependent on them? Do they have young family or kids at home at the moment, or generally? Or do they have wider family and whānau that's dependent on them to get groceries at the moment, to get medications? Or it could be also that they're supporting neighbours and people in their neighbourhood and suburb, in their village, and wherever they are living, to basically provide and get those basic services. And we're even hearing recently about people who need to go to the doctor with something that's completely non-COVID-19 related and are very fearful to go and don't go, are not going when they need to be going to the medical centre or to the hospital because of the fear of that COVID-19. And basically just what's going on in their life. How are things with them right now is going to impact how they react. So not only have we got causes of distress, I beg your pardon, we've got these factors that will impact how someone reacts positively or negatively. And then we've got physiological factors, adrenaline and cortisol, stress hormones, fantastic things, necessary. But they do have an impact on us. Now, adrenaline. We actually saw that in New Zealand when the government announced that they're going to level 3, we saw adrenaline reactions. So it's short term, people react with that fight, flight or freeze. So what we were seeing was panic buying, road rage, people fighting over resources, remember that pyramid that they thought was their sort of the way I need it while this event is going to happen. So all those reactions, people may be fighting and arguing with each other. That's a sort of reaction, that's an adrenaline reaction. And so what can also happen, because it's that original fight or flight from that threat, from that danger, is your muscles get ready to run or to fight, your eyesight gets better. But it's like your brain stops working for a bit because you're focusing on the action. And so thinking and processing is very, very difficult. Really basic information. What's your PIN number? What's your address? Really simple information is hard to recall right now. And then as time goes on, and we're probably starting to see it now, is this other stress hormone called cortisol. Necessary, gets us out of bed in the morning, but it's an endurance. It's when we don't see an end to what's happening in our lives at the moment. And so these higher levels of cortisol do start to impact us. Our sleep's impacted, our energy levels, our ability to concentrate, and that thinking and processing again becomes difficult. And we're having to think about doing things differently, think outside the square to stay connected, to communicate, maybe to exercise, to what we can do and where we can go. And when we've got high levels of cortisols in our body, that being creative and thinking thinking outside the square, problem solving gets really hard. So some of us may find that nearly impossible to do. And so part of providing PFA, we may need to help them. Again, not do it for them, not make those decisions for them, but help them go through and process those things. So it could be, is it this or this that you need right now or the next? No, what is it, this or this? And you're just helping them seek clarity to what they might need to do in the coming days to help themselves. So talking a bit more about stress and stress hormones, I want to talk about this thing called the amygdala hijack. Now, this is, again, a response to stress or fear or anger. And this amygdala, which is in our brain, automatically activates. And it acts really quickly when the brain believes the threat is strong. And it's not necessarily a physical threat, like you're going to have an accident or you're going to break, whatever it is. So what can happen is that this amygdala overpowers our ability to think and to process stuff. So it just triggers that fight and flight response. So I'm going to show you a video now which describes it a lot better than I'm doing. But also there's some really good tools and ideas of how we can reduce and stop this amygdala hijack. Have a listen.
When customers are dissatisfied with your service, their feelings can run high. They may have emotional outbursts which seem impossible to deal with. Understanding why people have emotional outbursts can help us control them. Put simply, the amygdala is the emotional centre of the brain and the cortex is the thinking area. In particularly stressful or intense situations, the amygdala takes over the cortex, preparing us for fight or flight, and it makes it difficult for us to use intelligence or reasoning. This is known as the amygdala hijack. During an amygdala hijack, adrenaline is released and stays in the body for about 18 minutes. Here's an example of the amygdala hijack in action. The amygdala hijack is characterized by 3 signs: a strong emotional reaction, a sudden onset, and regretting your actions later. Any strong emotion can trip off the amygdala and impair the cortex's working memory. Rationality is overwhelmed by emotions and stops us from being able to think clearly. If you have an emotional outburst, you can regain control by forcing the thinking part of your brain into action. By labelling your emotions, you can reduce their intensity and return some of the activity back to the cortex, thus increasing cognitive control. The technique of giving assertive feedback is a good way to force the thinking part of your brain to analyse the situation. To do this, you identify how you feel, what is the emotion, about what event or behaviour caused it, and why. Why did that event cause that emotion? Simply identifying these things will help you think rationally about them and help you control the amygdala hijack. Saying these things out loud will let others know how you feel. You can also help others regain control if they are experiencing an amygdala hijack. Just label the emotions you think they are feeling by empathising with them. To empathise with the other person, identify how they feel, what is the emotion, about what event or behaviour caused it, and why. Why did that event cause that emotion? Then say these things out loud to the other person. For example, I can tell you're frustrated, that I was at lunch when you called. I realise you wanted a quick answer. Then pause to let your message sink in and to stop you from saying but. This forces the person to switch on their cortex in order to be able to understand your words. It also reassures them that you have an appreciation of their feelings and situation.
So turning off the amygdala response, helping them gain control. So learning this tech could be really useful for you right now. So we've given some examples specifically relating to COVID-19. So how they feel, I can tell you're frustrated. About what? That you're having to stay in lockdown. Why? I realise you want to get your routine back. We pause and we breathe. And so it's really getting them to understand our words. The reality is the same for everyone right now, and feeling frustrated or anxious is normal. So this is one way that we can turn off this amygdala response. Another way to do this and to reduce a person's distress is to breathe.